Today I want to look at doing unit conversions between the English system and the metric system. When we've done the metric system, you have had to memorize the prefixes so that you can convert back and forth within that system. You will not be having to memorize the conversion factors between English and metric. Those would be given to you, but you just need to know how to use them. And I know it will be tempting to go online and use one of those little converters, but please don't do that. As you're doing your homework, work through it using the system that I am showing you so that you can learn how to do it in case you didn't have one of those little converters available at some point. All right, I have put two problems on the board, and the first one is just a one-step problem, and the second one is a two-step problem, so you can learn how to do that also. Neither one of them are particularly difficult problems, but it will illustrate the way that we can do these kinds of problems. So if you look at the first problem here, I've got 27 miles, and I want to know how many kilometers that is. And over here in my list of conversion factors, I have something that goes directly from miles to kilometers right here, and that's what makes this a one-step problem. So when you solve one of these kinds of problems, you always start with what you're given, in this case 27 miles. And then we set up a conversion factor. Now it is important that the conversion factor be a fraction that's equal to 1. Essentially, what's on top of the fraction and what's on the bottom of the fraction need to equal each other so that the fraction is 1, so that when we multiply it by this number, we're not changing the distance, we're only changing the unit. So I would like miles to not be my unit anymore. I want that to divide out, so I'm going to put miles on the bottom of the fraction. I want my answer to be in kilometers according to number 1 up there. So I'm going to put that on the top of the fraction. And I need these two things to equal each other, so I go over here and I find that 1 kilometer is 0.621 miles. So 1 kilometer, 0.621. Now, just as a little aside here, talking about significant figures, this is an exact number, and when we have these conversion factors, most of the time they are definitions, and so they are exact numbers. Some of them are not, but just because it's ridiculous for you to have to remember which ones are exact and which ones are not, we will treat all of them as if they're exact. So all that to say, when you round an answer, you go back to the number that was given in the problem as a measurement, look at how many significant figures that has, round your answer to match that. So in this problem, we get to keep 2 significant figures. All right, so this looks like it's going to be 27 divided by 0.621. And that gives me 43.478, and I only get to keep 2 significant figures out of that, so it looks like I just get to keep 43. So my final answer with 2 significant figures and the unit, don't forget the unit. And whenever you're doing work for me, ever on anything, you have to show your work. Even if you could do it in your head, you need to show me how you got your answer. So I need to see something like that set up. All right, the next problem that I gave you, in my short list of conversion factors, I don't have something that goes directly from miles to centimeters. And I know that there are more conversion factors that you could get, and you can feel free to get more conversion factors when you're doing your homework, but I need you to see a problem that requires 2 steps, so that's what we're doing here. So again, we'll start with our 27 miles. And as a first step, I can do the same thing I did last time, because that gets me into the metric system. So I'll do 1 kilometer and 0.621 miles. Miles are going to cancel, just like miles canceled up here. And that step will get me to kilometers. Now I want to go to centimeters. Now this is going to be a ridiculously large number, of course, because we've got 27 miles and a centimeter is about that big, so it's going to be a big number, just be aware of that. So let's look at what we can do with this. I want kilometers to cancel. I want my answer in centimeters. So now I want to think about what are 2 numbers that equal each other, and what I normally do is say, let's make both of them equal to a meter. So in other words, 100 centimeter is a meter, and a better way to say that maybe is 10 to the 2nd power. That makes it a little easier to do the problem. And for kilometers, it's 10 to the minus 3rd kilometers is equal to a meter, right? Because it's 1,000 meters in a kilometer, and so I need a 1,000th of a kilometer to be equal to a meter. So if both of these equal 1 meter, then they equal each other, and I can use that as a conversion factor. So now I'm going to take the number that I got before, and I'm just going to keep this 43 because I know I'm still going to have to round it off to two significant figures. But now it's going to be 43 times this. So let's see, to do a division, I would say 2 minus a negative 3, so that's 10 to the 5th. So now we've got 43 times 10 to the 5th. That is not correct scientific notation, and I think I've just gone off the screen, so let me write that down here. 43 times 10 to the 5th. And if we want to put that in correct scientific notation, I need a decimal point here. So that becomes 43 times 10 to the 6th, and my answer here is in centimeters. And that's a really big number, but we expected a really big number. So that's your method for solving one-step and two-step problems going between the metric system and the English system.